dude, if this actually works and it glows in the dark, like how sick is that? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be trying out and reviewing some glow-in-the-dark transfer paper. So I actually found these on Amazon, and I first came across them and they stood out to me because it was transfer paper that actually glows in the dark, and I had never seen or tried anything out like that. And I was like, dude, if you can print out any picture and put it on a shirt and it actually glows in the dark, like how sick is that? So of course, Amazon once again got me. They got me to spend. So I got these, and I was super intrigued because, dude, if this actually works and it glows in the dark, like how sick is that? Because with glow-in-the-dark HTV, that one works out as well, but you're kind of limited to what you can do with HTV. Like, you can actually do a full-on picture, but with transfer paper, you could print out whatever it is that you want. So we're gonna see if this actually glows in the dark and if it's worth it. So this pack, like I mentioned, is from Amazon. This one came with 12 sheets, which is cool because it's like a decent amount for you to try out. So in this video, I'm gonna review it, try it out for the first time. I'm gonna give it a wash test to see if it actually survives the wash. So if you're interested to hear my thoughts on the glow-in-the-dark transfer paper, then let's get started. Here's a design that I'm going to do, and I'm just gonna print it out and cut it myself because in Cricut they limit the size that you could print and cut. So I'm just gonna print it and cut it myself. And also this image right here, it has some pretty jagged edges, and I know the Cricut will go crazy trying to cut that, so I'm just gonna cut it myself. And for this paper, you do not need to mirror your image. So for the paper, make sure you load it into the printer so it prints on the blank side and the logo is towards the back. Then just go ahead and send this to print and make sure your image fits the paper size. So just print it and make sure it's in the best quality, and then just send it to print. And then once it's printed, make sure to let it dry. I left mine for about 20 minutes just to be safe. And then I just went ahead and cut it out, and I honestly feel like I was probably faster than Cricut would be because of these like Cricut little edges. So I'm glad I cut it myself. And now we're going to peel it off, so look for an edge and then carefully peel it off of the backing. So the peel for sure was quite easy, so far so good. So I already went ahead and prepped my shirt. Now I'm just gonna put the transfer. So these transfer papers did come with their own Teflon paper, and I was supposed to take off the Teflon cover on my plan, but I completely forgot. So we're just gonna have to use both because I don't want this somehow sticking to my Teflon cover, you know, so we're gonna do both. So let's just go ahead and do that. And for this one, it's gonna be pressed at 338 degrees for 10 seconds. And now let's go ahead and peel it. And there we have it. I'm just gonna put my hand inside just to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. And there we go. Now let's look at it up close. And here it is up close. So far all the edges feel like they're actually pressed on there. Like all these little corners right here that have the sharp edges are actually pressed on the t-shirt, so that's a good thing. But I will say, I don't know if you can tell, starting here there's like a white outline all around the image. It comes down the side and then all the way over here, which is weird because when I went to cut out the image, I did not leave any white space because that wasn't the look I was going for. So the fact that there's a white outline is kind of weird. I feel like when it pressed, the image kind of got pushed, which is weird because it's just a layer of paper, so it's not like it's two layers at one, kind of like pressed a little bit this way. So that's weird because I know when I cut it, I did not leave any white space. So it's trippy that it has that outline showing. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I did want to mention that this totally came out of nowhere. And I forgot to mention earlier how bright the image actually is. Usually with transfer papers, you never know if the colors are going to come out saturated or dull. But this one right here is just super saturated. Even once it was first printed, all the colors were super bright, and then I went ahead and pressed it and look, the colors are still bright, which I love, especially with an image like this one, because look at all the colors, everything blends together, there's no pixelation, no dullness, no anything. I just love the colors of this. But overall, it's still pressed. We are gonna give it a wash test to see if it survives the wash, and we're gonna look at this in the dark to see if it actually glows. And in the instructions it says to leave this in direct sunlight or under lights for an hour, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let this sit under these lights for an hour, and then we're gonna come back in the dark and see if it glows. And here it is in the dark. Dude, look at how cool that is. Oh my god. The way they're outlined just makes them stand out. Like, just look at, dude, this is sick. I did not expect this to look as cool as it does. I'm like super impressed. So I hope it survives the wash because the glow is definitely glowing. I feel like for some reason maybe on the camera it's showing it much brighter than it is in person. But once you look at it like super close, then you can see like the glowness of it. But dude, this thing is so sick. So the instructions for this one did say the lighter your image, the glowier it's gonna be. Obviously this image doesn't really have light colors going on. It's more like greens and purples and like darker colors. But even with this not being super light colors, I feel like the glow is still there, especially on the outlines. Like the outline just makes everything look sick, dude. Like look at it. It just makes it look kind of like 3D. So sick. So far I'm super impressed with the glowness. Hopefully once I wash it, the glow is still there. So as I was editing this, I noticed that when the lights were first turned off, the glow was super bright and glowy. But as I was talking, it was slowly fading and losing its glow. So I can't say exactly how long the glowness actually glows, you know, since it does get duller and duller as time goes on. So now I'm just gonna let this sit for 24 hours and then I'm gonna turn it inside out, throw it into the wash, let it air dry, and then we're gonna come back and see if the transfer survived the wash and if it still glows. And here it is after it's been washed and air dried. So from feeling around the edges, it definitely still feels like it's adhered onto the shirt. Even these little corners are still on there, no lifting or anything, no peeling. And from looking at it at first, I was like, dude, it's perfect. It looks the same as it was before. But I did pull up a picture that I took before I washed it. And looking at certain sections, it does look different. Like you probably can't even tell here, but the black sections seem to be the ones that are fading. Like right there, can you see how it's like darker? And right there, there's some fading going on. Even down there with him, it just straight up looks faded, like kind of like grayish. Like there's like some graininess to it, even with the cat. Like can you see how right here it has the shadows and it's straight up black, and right here it's not? So it for sure survived the wash like when it comes to the pressing, but I guess the color had some fading going on. Luckily I took this picture to compare. I don't think it's a picture itself because I tried taking a picture of this one and there is a little bit of a difference. So for sure the color I guess faded a little bit. When I first saw it I was like, oh my god, it bled through because of her hair. But then I went back to see the picture and that's how her hair is. It has that like shadow fadeness to it. Look, even her hair has some fading going on because of the wash. So it may have survived the pressing, but clearly the transfer did not 100% survive the wash because as you can see, some of the colors are discolored, especially the black. I feel like that's the one that actually stands out. The shadows aren't really shadows anymore, so we're gonna see if that affects the glow. So once again, I'm gonna let this sit here for an hour. We're gonna come back in the dark and we're gonna see if this still glows and if it made a difference. Here it is once again in the dark. As you can see, the washing did not affect the glow at all because it's still glowing. So even though the transfer's color got faded in the wash, it did not affect the glow, which is a good thing because as you can see, the glowing outlines are still there, which makes everything stand out, so it still looks cool. But like I mentioned earlier, as time goes on, it slowly starts to fade. So I want to try that again. I'm going to give it a 5-minute span and we're going to see if it fades as easily as it did the first time. And here's the shirt once again. Dude, the first time I saw this in the dark, I was tripping. I was like, I can't believe it's actually glowing. I'm not gonna lie, I did think it was gonna be a complete fail. I'm like, there's no way this is actually gonna glow. But the fact that it did, I was like, dude, how sick is this? Like, even these outlines right here just made them look 3D and made them stand out even more. It was just so cool. But as you saw, once I washed it, this transfer did lose a bit of its color. And I do feel like that affected its glow because as you saw the second time, I did the 5-minute span to see how long it took to lose its glow. And I feel like looking back at the footage, I did them side by side. I compared them when I was editing. I did feel like this one lost its glow faster than the first time before I washed it. So even though this one was still glowing, I feel like the glowness of it was just fading way faster than it did the first time. So keep that in mind that after you wash it, it is going to slightly lose its color and then it's going to lose some of its glowness. Like it's still going to glow, but it's going to fade faster. And even though it did fade faster, I feel like the glow was still there after it had like faded. Like once I stopped doing that 5-minute span of me filming it for 5 minutes, there was still glow, but you kind of had to like look at it really close to see what actually was glowing. There was still some glowness to it, but it wasn't like a clear image of what it is, you know. But overall, I will say I think this whole thing is still a cool concept. I don't think it beats out actual glow-in-the-dark HTV because I feel like the HTV actually stays glowing for a few hours. You just have to charge it, you know, under lights to make sure that it actually glows, but then it stays glowing hours later once you turn off the lights. As with this one, it still glows after you turn off the lights, but it's not as clear as, let's say, the actual HTV, even though like with HTV, it's like a word or like a cutout image or something. It's not an actual picture like this one, but still, the glow-in-the-dark HTV is still much brighter and glowier than these transfers right here. So overall, I would have to give these like a 7 out of 10. They did survive the wash because as you could see, they're still on the shirt. It didn't lift or anything, which is a good thing because I've tested out all the transfer papers that don't survive the pressing. So I'm glad to see that this one actually survived, especially these edges. But I do feel like the whole glowness of it did throw me off because I was expecting it to be like super glowy, like you could straight up see what it is. And you can in the beginning, but then it slowly starts to fade, which kind of sucks. But the whole saturation of this transfer on its own, let's just for a second pretend this isn't a glow-in-the-dark transfer paper. I feel like this transfer paper is actually cool. The way it was super saturated as soon as I printed it, I thought was so cool. Like you never know what you're gonna get with transfer papers, and the fact that this one was super saturated, had a bright color, was sick. Because even though let's pretend you don't even know this is glow-in-the-dark, the whole image itself, it's still cool, you know? So definitely in the whole printing process, this one definitely passes the test. So it passes the printing test, it passes the pressing test. It just maybe doesn't pass the wash test because it did lose some color. So I feel like the more that you wash it, the more that it's gonna be fading the color, you know? Hopefully it still stays glowing, but I just know that wash after wash after wash, it's just gonna slightly be losing its color, and what's the point of that, you know? But the fact that it was saturated in the beginning, I think that's so cool. So overall, this is not bad. Definitely try it out for yourself, especially right now, spooky season. Like how cool would this be, getting a picture of like your favorite horror character and putting it on a shirt and wearing it for a costume and having it glow? Like how sick is that, you know? So definitely check these out if you're curious. I'll have them linked down below. They are not the absolute best, but they're not the absolute worst either, you know? There are way worse transfer papers out there. And this whole concept for this, I think is so cool. So I would suggest you trying it out for yourself, because trust me, once you see it glow that first time, you're gonna be like, what the hell? Even for that reaction itself, I feel like you need to try it out, because that glow, the first time that you see it, you're like, damn, this is sick. So definitely check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this review. Don't forget to leave me your thoughts in the comments, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and yeah, I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.